smoke break for a minute, recalibrate some things or whatever. And I'll get into that towards the end. But I want to talk about the unimaginable, the unthinkable, the most, in my opinion, one of the most, besides spitting on somebody, one of the worst things you can do, and I've seen this time and time again in different calibers and different measurements, where I've seen people have shootings at funerals here in the tri-state area, California, Chicago, you name it, it has happened. I have never seen it with my own two eyes, but it has happened. This time, this was a little bit more crazy. Now, I don't know. See, this is the thing. Nicole Young, who is Dr. Dre's soon to be ex wife, I don't know if it was her ingenuity that did this or whether it was the server's ingenuity that did this. But whatever the case was, somebody decided it was a good idea to sign Dr. Dre divorce. Well, actually, not divorce papers. Everybody has that mixed up. It's not divorce papers, actually. See, that's why I never jumped the gun. It's not divorce papers. What it was a decree for him to pay her 1.5, almost $1.5 million in legal fees. This had nothing to do with the divorce. This was an injunction that was already passed by a judge on him and a decision given for him to pay her legal fees, which is usually a normal thing with the person that is the contester, obviously making less than the person that they're going up against in court, which would be the defendant. I don't know where to take this from because, and I didn't mean to say defendant, but the person on that's being divorced. The funny thing is that if this was timing by Nicole Young, what type of woman did you have around you this whole time? Because see, a woman doesn't just come up and say, you know what, how can I get really back at him? Women don't do that. This took some thinking. You understand what I'm saying? This took some plotting. This took some ingenuity because for you to have those papers ready and ready to go, you must have had to sit on them for a little bit. And once again, I will say to you, these were not divorce papers. These were part of an injunction just to say, hey, listen, you owe 1.5 million, which you all know Dr. Dre got. You owe 1.5 million in attorney fees for Nicole Young, which is your ex-wife. So you can proceed with this divorce or whatever they're getting, which in my opinion, you should have divorced her a long time ago. She should have been out the door a long time ago. Even in that picture I got up on YouTube, y'all just don't, y'all don't match. I'm sorry, y'all don't match. So I kept looking at it. She had a strong jaw too, like a fella, like, like, yo soy Latino aquí, se, tú sabes, afrontame aquí. You know what I mean? Like she got a chin, like chinchilla. Anyway, this is more than that. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by that. See, this was an attempt to embarrass Dr. Dre. And if you ask me, being vindictive at its highest potency. If I had to make a guess, I think she had a problem with that woman at one time or another, his grandmother. And grandma probably saw something that Dr. Dre didn't see at the time that you done went and got you a Jabberwocky. Yes, that's what I said. This strong chin, Popeye the sailor ass chin chick that Dr. Dre accidentally married. And I ain't trying to disrespect you, but she got a chin like Popeye. This chick that you decided to marry now is your worst enemy. You know, your worst enemy. Because out of all, listen, Dre beefs with the East Coast. He was part of that with Snoop and all these guys. I remember that shit. And so, if you survive that, and then the real war happens when you're inside your household, think about that. And I'm not trying to pity this into something else. What I'm trying to tell you is this came from somewhere else. And that place it came from was how easy a target men are. And I specifically mean men of color in this particular arena because I do not believe that she would have taken the same precedence to someone else. I really don't think that. In fact, I'll even go further than that. I think she did this intentionally just to preclude and pass that ideology on to other women. Now, what I see now is there's no holds barred. There's no holds barred. If you do that to me, there's no more rules. There's no more parameters. There's no more playing fair. You showed up at my grandmother's funeral, okay? To a man that's worth $1 billion. Dre, I'm sorry if she would have did that to me and I had $1 billion on me. She in the trunk tonight. Damn shame what happened to Nicole. And that's what I mean by this. There's a thin line between being a woman and being obnoxious. And this was being obnoxious. This had nothing to do with her femininity. This had nothing to do with her hurt. Chick, you spent years upon years spending millions upon millions upon millions upon millions that weren't yours. They were Dr. Dre's millions of dollars and his hard home work. And you spent years and years and years spending this man's money. And finally, when he got tired of years and years you spending his money, he decides, hey, listen, either you got to stop spending money or we got to finalize something. And instead of finalizing something and coming to a resolution, she'd rather leave because she knows that she leaves in the state of California, which we all know, if you didn't know, if you marry somebody in California and you divorce somebody in California, well, the person is a contestee, they have to usually give up about 50% of what they have. It's not a very good idea to get married in California. If you don't believe me, there's several other states in the United States that are exactly the same. Okay. This is a statute that's written on the books. It goes all the way back to, I think, almost the late 1800s, if not the early 1900s. But it's an old law with the decrees and wills and all that shit that come in fortitude when a person passes on or there comes a discrepancy within the marriage or whatever the case may be. This woman did something that I want to highlight. It's not even the fact of what she did, it's what's to come after this. Because now that she's made headlines, and depending on how the day fares out, how many people will actually pay attention to this story, it's not only the insult, it's how cold is. If a woman's that cold to do something like that as you're getting a divorce, you have to ask yourself at that time, who have I been laying in the bed with? And I see more and more women feeling so bold because they think there's no repercussions. The other day, you guys saw me in a video. I was doing a video, and the same thing I had the title up about. Somebody came and led in demonstration, and it was a woman. And I noticed that you guys don't see it, but there's a lot of women that leave comments and say all kinds of shit. I've had women say shit about my mother. I've had women say shit about my sister. One woman told me she would kill my sister. I had another woman tell me she hoped I died when I was in my time of need at the height. I think I highlighted that at the time it happened. I've had women come on far more than guys, and it's usually some punk guys that come on. It's usually a mama's boy, or you know what I mean, one of them simps that come on, or whatever, and they'll try to pretend like they're a real man. Meanwhile, they laying up in the girl's house in the fifth floor of the projects right now. You understand what I'm saying? That's one thing I said about me. When I was fucked up, I ain't go sling some D so I can go stay up in some girl house with her kids and shit. You know what I'm saying? I roughed it out and I made it happen. These are the people that are online talking the same way, like they wish they lived a lifestyle of Nicole Young. And even if they don't never have or never will live this lifestyle of Nicole Young, they feel entitled to speak just like Nicole Young would. You understand what I'm saying? There's a big difference between you and Nicole Young. Let me explain that to you. First of all, Nicole Young served her ex-husband with a decree talking about he need to pay up that 1.5 million. Now she did it trashy as hell, but the highlighted point, the premise of this conversation is $1.5 million that her husband had to money to pay. You understand what I'm saying? 1.5 that her husband had the money to pay. Most of you motherfucking chicks can't get a pack of cigarettes and a carton of eggs from your man. You understand what I'm saying? And most of you chicks got your dude digging in your pockets. Oh, I know. You know how many grown-ass teenage boys I know? That's what I call them, grown-ass teenage boys. You know how many grown-ass teenage boys I know that will sit there and talk all that big money shit and all that shit or whatever. Highlight. They live in the house with their girl. They don't have a bank account. They've never had any rental history. They never motherfucking lived on their own longer than a couple of months. They've never been able to keep a job longer than a couple of months or whatever. I had a motherfucker say something to me about a job one day. I said, nigga, I worked at the same job for 17 fucking years. How about you? And I had been working there since I was a kid. This attitude that Nicole Young has got is going to stretch out, and now normal ass chicks going to think they can have the same attitude, and they're going to try to do the same If you don't believe me, watch some of them episodes of Divorce Court. If you don't believe me, watch some of them shows with Judge Mathis in the other days and come in and watch how these girls that won divorces and under the premises of why they won divorces and see how they act. What I'm trying to tell you is what Nicole Young did was deeper than just trying to insult him. What she wanted to show the country was I can touch this man and affect this man in a way that you can't. Now, there's two discrepancies in the story. One story is saying that he was served with the papers in the parking lot. Another story is saying he was served that he was standing right next to the casket of the grandmother at the time. Either way it go, you showed up at my grandmother's funeral. There's no holds barred now. You know, whatever happened to you, happened to you. That's a damn shame Nicole fell off that cliff. That's a damn shame that car wreck Nicole got into. How the hell did Nicole end up in the trunk? You showed up at my dead grandmother's funeral. Bitch, I don't care how many kids we have with each other. Them kids will be all right. They almost grown anyway. They can move without their mama. Let's see what's in there. It's beyond disrespectful. What up, Mitch? You already know. BX on check-in. She cold. Dr. Dre, you got served. Yeah, she cold. Dr. Dre, you got... That ain't cold. There's nothing to, like, really hold that up, Reness. Love Posse. She being spiteful. Exactly. It's beyond being spiteful at that point. It's like you got what you wanted. Did you see the settlement that she's going to get based on California law? She's never going to have to work a day in her life again. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure prior to that, she wouldn't have had to because Dre would have took care of her without all these extremes. This is a woman that's bitter, spiteful, and upset because I think she feels now that she's in her older years. I think she's about like getting ready to hit 50 or whatever. And 50 don't pan out well for all women the same way. There are some women that reach 50 and 50 plus and look fucking better than they did when they were younger. And then there's some women that hit 50 plus, and then it's like, well, it's all downhill from here, Jill. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with guys too. You end up wearing dad jeans, or you work out, keep yourself in shape, take care of yourself, eat the right way, exercise, don't sit behind a fucking car seat all day. That is the number one culprit of a lot of people gaining weight. They eat fast food and they sit behind a car wheel for miles in some cases, all fucking day long. Then when they get out that car, they shoot straight from the car into the house. They don't have any mobility whatsoever. And after the period of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, in that minimal time, your joints start stiffening up, you start getting fat, you start getting out of shape. Blah. You know what I mean? I don't think that was the case with Dre or her. They're both active. He has a pair of headphones that invoke fucking being active, Beats by Dre. So it makes sense to me that he stayed. And plus his regimen of him being big, I don't think he'd fall into that category. But the category I do think she falls into is, baby, you 50 years old, new on the market. And you Dr. Dre, who's a multi-billionaire. Not millionaire. Let me say that for you again. Billionaire. That's why I say, some motherfuckers don't know how to talk money. Some niggas walking around riding Honda Accords, some 2004 BMW 7 Series, and 2000. Been there, done that, pimping. Been there, done that. You know what I mean? That is not money. That shit right there is called getting by change. You getting by. You know what I mean? You have no plan whatsoever except for trying to impress people that live in your neighborhood. You know, you're not going to leave a mark on the world, trust me. But by the time it is finished and done, you will be known as the illest motherfucker that served fries at McDonald's. And that will be your story. That's how it works over here. All that other stuff you're talking about, I don't understand that. Now, this girl will get somewhere, I believe it was upward of $200,000 a month in spousal support. It's ridiculous. Most of the kids that she has with him are grown. I think there's 1 or 2 kids left or something like that. But she's going to get spousal support under California state law. And she decided that the best way to get her attorney fees done, said, and over with was serving Dr. Dre at his grandmother's funeral. Dr. Dre, I'm going to say this to you, and I say this as a loyal East Coast cat. I say this as someone out of the tri-state area, New York, Connecticut, and Jersey alike, and I think we all will agree. If that bitch was to get hit by a motherfucking car tomorrow and the ambulance caught a flat tire on its way to pick her up, I don't think none of us, except for a few of the chosen toxic feminists out there, would have a problem if anything between that time or that tire getting fixed on an ambulance and motherfucking red lights to follow in between, that hopefully that ambulance will stop at every last one of them. That we don't give a fuck about you. In fact, any woman that is like this, and I'm glad it's being pointed out because I want to use it as an example. There are a lot of passive aggressive motherfuckers out here towards men nowadays, particularly men of color. And I've noticed this more and more and more and more. I've had situations where, and I literally mean this, where, and I'm going to give you two examples. I'm going to get out of here. One of them was when and I think a lot of guys can agree with this, repeatedly when I go to fast food restaurants that are in whatever type of neighborhoods, and the majority of the staff is either black or Latin, and you as a man go in there, depending on how you look or how you're perceived is how you're going to be treated. The better and more astute you look, or the more you look ambitious, the worse you will be treated by those women most of the time. The more you look dragged, or the more you looked like you're a extreme example of blue collar working, the better you'll be treated in that same establishment. I've had this happen to me many of times. I've had women try this little trick where they'll repeat what you said to them back to you the wrong way and act like they pretended like they didn't hear, while meanwhile they're holding up the line while they're doing their little game in hopes of getting you upset. See, the name of the game is to get you upset. Once you get upset in public, now it's a spectacle and like the child that these motherfuckers contrived this shit up because these are children. You understand? Anybody that runs around there after, I don't know, 17 years old, in a normal world, you are somebody that either has a mental problem or you are someone that is extremely immature or have no prospects of having more than what you have. You understand what I'm saying? In my personal opinion, and I think in the opinion of most Americans. So when you get somebody like that, usually it leads and segues into something like a troublemaker. Troublemakers do things like this. They go around and they poke problems and they create problems out of thin air, all for the rise and the halt of it. Never not one time not looking and saying, hey, fucking around like this could probably get me killed. Nicole, you made a mistake. And that mistake you made may cost you not only your divorce settlement, because Dr. Dre, if I was you, I would run this to the courts right now. I would run this chick into the ground on social media with all the power that you have. She has no power. She's just a loudmouth. And that's what I notice about a lot of these particular women that do this stuff. And I say it's a segment of women because not all women are doing this. Not all women that are feminists are toxic. These are toxic women that do this. So the women that do this, the thing that's up to the women that don't do this is to not support them, not engage, not surrounded with sharing and liking and everything like that. When you know in your deepest and deepest hearts, this could have been your brother, this could have been your uncle, this could have been your father, this could have been anybody. Know what I mean? Go up there and watch the video, Sid. I said I was going to call you Sydney. Go watch the video 305 Capricorn. Yes, y'all. I threw up another video or whatever. I did a nice little compilation. Y'all go check that out after this or whatever. Tell me what y'all think about that. But yeah, it's beyond disrespectful. Like I said, a lot of men of color, both black and Latin, because I've seen Latin dudes go through it too, just get straight disrespected. I'm talking about dudes that look like they just got off work. You know what I'm saying? He got the work boots on, pulled up at the truck or whatever. This man just wanted coffee. And I'll see this man get disrespected, but the white person behind them or whoever else it is behind them that looks like that, I think it's all a game about is simulation. I think some people believe that America is set up in a way where white people give reward to being simulated. But if you've been in this country longer than, I'm going to say 20, 30 years, you know exactly the opposite of that. No, though you have to batch it down. There's blue collar workers. I was in the white collar sector, so I know this for a fact. There's blue collar workers, there's white collar workers. Blue collar workers tend to be the bulk of the helm front in this country as far as production, as far as restaurants, as far as grocery stores. God, where would we be without them? So let's not say anything about that because white collar workers were regulated to home, regulated to wherever they could be because offices were now closed during the pandemic. You get what I'm saying? So these blue collar agencies were still open, grocery stores, many of restaurants with Grubhub, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's not pretend that. But what I'm saying in that diagram of that blue collar working experience is that it's either most of the time usually seasonal, it's usually not that depth and skill until you get to the tier portions of it, like a foreman or the leader of a union, which is all those things are possible. Or three, you end up owning your own business within the blue collar sector. You understand what I'm saying? And being an entrepreneur. Those are the three ways that most people in this country, I would say, from an economist's perspective, from an economic perspective. I mean, you could matriculate in other smaller ones, but the bulk pillar three are those three. And so, with that being said, I don't think they get the distinction sometimes when people, and I know this is long-winded, but just bear with me because I'm gonna get to the point. I think a lot of people don't understand that. And a lot of times it comes from where you stand as social economically in this country. That's what I mean. And it doesn't matter where you're at. Your previous social economic experience can be, and I can stand testament to that. I've had over three loans before, which were all repaid, except one that a third of it wasn't paid to the third creditor because I switched schools. Fuck you. You know what I mean? Um, so I've had three loans, which were all paid back in full, over 40,000. I have a pretty good credit score. It's not the best, but we're gonna get it back up. And that fell for a couple of reasons, you know what I mean? But I've never had bad credit. I've never had anything under like a five something, you know what I mean, at one given time. I learned these things from my mother and my father. You know what I'm saying? And for some reason or another, a lot of people don't matriculate that. And I'll throw that in with the Dr. Dre thing and Nicole Young. It's the same thing. They grew up in different backgrounds. Even though they appear the same, they grew up in different backgrounds. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people in African American and Latin culture don't like to distinguish between. And when I say this, I mean they don't like to distinguish between it because sometimes it brings them into their current reality. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by that. I don't mean that to insult anybody. I don't mean that to make anybody feel any kind of way or whatever. But there are a lot of women out there. The average woman right now makes 82 cents versus a dollar that a man makes. This is a fact nationally. You can look up the demographics for yourself if you like to. I implore you to. But the average woman in this country makes 82 cents versus a man's $1. So for every dollar I make, a woman only makes 82 cents, and in some states less than that. I think they drilled it down to 71 cents in some states, depending on where you're at and depending on what the pay rate is. So I guess like the payback for that now is some women have in their mind that the more that I bash, the more that I come on the offensive, the more that I appear more thus written on getting revenge and venting on everybody in society, like Nicole Young has just demonstrated, that somehow makes me stronger and appear more vigil. No, what it's making you is a fucking enemy, all right? And a lot of these men, especially a lot of these crazy men out here, are looking at a lot of women as enemies nowadays. And I keep telling you, ladies, when you apply and shit like this, you better watch out because there's some nut guy that's been sitting out there for 10 to 15 years, and he's just been waiting for a moment like this. It's only gonna take one more time. And the Steel Strike Strangler is gonna come back out. Yeah. There's a motherfucker sitting at home right there. And listen, I've never met him, but how do I know? Because I'm a guy. You understand? I stand and pee. You understand what I mean? And so I conversate with other guys, and I know us conversating as other guys and other guys is on this post right now. Y'all gonna know what I'm talking about. Us as we conversate as guys, you will never enter the seat arena with it for real. Even if guys talk loosely around girls, they always make sure to put a hindrance or an edit on it. All right. Any guy that's saying something wrong to me, I'm saying something wrong right now, please come correct me. You never let, and the same thing goes with women. I grew up with women in the house. Same thing with women. Women know when to put a cap on a conversation or put a motherfucking little spit undertone slick shit in a conversation, so a man won't know what they're talking about. But if you are tuned and you grew up with aunties, and I mean good aunts and good cousins and good sisters or something like that taught you, you know how to pick on it just like that. I listen to them when they talk about me right in front of me in their conversations all the time. You know what I'm saying? I had a woman last week say, I would have fun, older woman. She said, I would have fun with him for like a week, but I have to let him go because I could get addicted. That's what she said right in front of me. Now, she didn't say it exactly like that. She said it, oh, how about a week with that? And then they say it so quickly and so, you know, if you listen to music or you changing your hat or something, you wouldn't even pay attention to it. But pay attention to that, fellas. Because a lot of times these girls be broken up with you a year or two before they make their move. Meaning emotionally, she is uninvested in your ass for the past year and a half. And so she just waiting for somebody either better to come along and not necessarily better, or somebody that lay that D better than you, or somebody that's more attentive than you, whatever, whatever. And I've seen women be like, you know what, fuck all that shit here. I deal with this. We'll struggle a little bit, but I can navigate him. You know what I mean? So don't always put all your eggs in one basket. Other than that, Nicole Young, you're a fucking scumbag. Anybody that agrees with you and agrees with your actions is a fucking scumbag and should be put to test put the test here that everything I say on this motherfucker, somehow or another, it comes back and resonates. I just had a woman on my page the other day sit there and talk to me like I was crazy. And I'm like, the only person that looked crazy, and people in my comment section are telling her, you are absolutely wrong. And the only thing she had to do was take a couple of minutes to go and look at some videos. She took one video and she scrolled with that and was like, I know you now. I did a psychoanalysis of you. Hot damn. You don't fucking know me. And if you would have, you're not that intelligent. I looked at her page, another one of them. Been on there for 8 years and got 3 followers. You ain't exactly set the world on fire, did you? That's why I ain't even bother, making a video about you or anything, because you need the promo. And speaking of promo, guys, my single is still up here for sale. Please make sure you go purchase that or whatever. Like I said, I fell back for a minute because I said, let me take me a day off or whatever, because I'll come back with the same energy. I'll be ready to go in. And y'all know how I go in when I go in. I'm out to destroy you. And sometimes I put a hindrance on it. Another thing I want to talk about real quick before I get off of here. Dorky Diamonds fans. I'm glad Dorky Diamonds kept it real last night. Him and Kareem. You said a couple little subjective shit right there. I know that's how you are, nigga. You from Brooklyn, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Salute though. I like how you did the show last night. You know what I'm saying? And all the slick shit removed. I gotta say this much, because Brooklyn niggas are just slick talking niggas. Especially the older they are, the slicker they are. Unless you know them. Once you know them, they'll talk regular around you. But let me tell you something. One thing he pointed out was a lot of motherfuckers, Dorky Diamonds pointed out, and I have to agree with him on this. A lot of motherfuckers will come to you with information or whatever, and at the same time, they serving your enemies information. See what I mean? A lot of times, motherfuckers will come serving you information, and they serving their enemies information. They're your enemies information too. Or on top of that, the other thing he said, and I had to pick up on this too, a lot of times cats will send you stuff, and like I said, people used to send me stuff in my email. And then all of a sudden I start getting weird shit behind it. I'm like, what the fuck this shit come on? I ain't sign up for this. Oh, because the place you shared it at or whatever, what you were looking for, Doggy Diamonds, and I think why you missed it because you ain't go to college for that. And I'm not trying to insult you, so calm the fuck down. What I mean is it's an encoding structure, which is also online at HTML coding. That's why you mentioned VPNs, because VPNs hide HTML5 encoding specifically. Before that, prior to that, VPNs, they would hide some websites. But HTML5, the VPNs that are out right now, like Rabbit, and there's a couple of other ones or whatever. I forgot what the blue chip one is. What's going on, Miss Tip? It's my baby right there. Those particular websites that are HTML5, those websites are more subjected to a VPN. So if somebody sends you a link via that VPN, it's hard to track it. But once again, I keep trying to tell y'all, and a perfect example of this, because I saw, damn, this going on that long. I end it quick. A perfect example of that is what Mark Zuckerberg is doing right now. And a lot of y'all people might hear coined as the Metaverse, where it's the same thing as this right here. And I'm telling you, whatever website, and I told you this, Whatever website Mark Zuckerberg is about to reinvent Facebook as, don't go to that motherfucker. This is why. He's calling it the Metaverse. Now, I'm going to teach y'all something that I learned in college, and you guys can pass it on to your friends too. I'm hoping that you do it free of charge. There's something called metadata, okay? Metadata, going back into encoding, and I learned this because I know how to build websites. It'll take me about 8 months to 9 months to build a website the old-fashioned way without using an app like they do now. I'm talking about a website on an HTML5 format, you know what I'm saying, and built engine. It took me about 8-9 months to get it interactive where it has several pages, etc., etc. Well, within that, once you get that website interactive, and now it's, a social media site, now you do this thing called metadata collection. Now, I'm going to tell you, I spoke about this, and me and my longtime followers know this, but you're seeing an example of it. Metadata collection, metaverse. Metadata collection is small increments, or meaning small pieces of data, right? And a perfect example of this is there's a video out, and I'll put it up later, of this woman who just recently found out that her Amazon Echo had small 5 second to 7 second to 9 second. It went viral. It's like 3 million views now. 5 second, 7 second little scoots of what she was doing in her house. So she would say something like, "Hey, Alexa, play such and such." They took a voice recording of it. She would say something to her son or whatever. Since she was in the vicinity of the Amazon Echo, it would take a voice clip, 7 to 6 seconds. Now, I think the reason it does this, and it does it in those increments of seconds, is because of legality in it. You understand what I'm saying? It's the same thing in a lot of legalities where you're recording, you have to turn off at a certain moment. And that might be regulated by the FCC, which is also scary because that means that they're allowing this small metadata collection. So it's more vivid than you actually think it is. It also happens in your phone. Another thing I'll tell you about your phone. When you're using your phone, one of the suggested things I would tell you to do is go in where you see settings and go to anything that requires permission from your mic or permission from your video camera. It is doing small metadata collection, and it does it in small sound increments, or it does it in small bursts of what you input. So say you do a search. Any of you guys ever did a search for something? I know this is turning into something different, but I just wanted to end this with this. If any of you guys have ever done a search for something during the daytime, and say you do it on Google, and then later on that night, you go to your Facebook or you go to your motherfucking Instagram or wherever you go, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, you're now getting commercials or things tailored to that. So say you went to go look at some jeans. Now there are jean commercials popping up. Or say you went to go look at some sneakers and now there's sneaker commercials. That is all part of metadata collection. And I've probably been talking to that with people for probably like 5 years. On this channel particularly alone, you probably can find 6 videos that I've talked about this early on. I'm not talking about no 6 months ago or whatever. I'm talking about months ago I was talking about this, you know? And the last thing I want to leave off with, speaking of that, and I'm not talking about Dorky Diamonds either, I'm talking about some other motherfuckers. There's a lot of people online all of a sudden. Yes, I mean a lot of people online. I look you straight in your motherfucking face and tell you that seemingly want to imitate me. I've caught now 3 people telling my story or telling increments of my story or taking information of mine and making it theirs. And they're trying to reword it so they sound intelligent. Listen, man, you're either intelligent or you're not intelligent. All right. And I can understand, I understand it and I see it when I see a lot of you trying to pronounce things and you're struggling or you try, no offense. Many of y'all know this in New York City. All right. I didn't go to school in New York. I didn't go to public school in New York, elementary school, none of that shit. You know what I mean? I went to school primarily in Virginia, Miami, and finally in Connecticut. All right. My college was in New York. Now, when I went to college in New York, one of the things I noticed was a lot of the people I went to school with was from New York too. I went to college with. Outside of that, there were people from other areas of the country that I went to college with too. I make no lie of this, and I will bring my friend Jen on, and she can testify for this. The reading rate for New York students was almost at a struggle. We had people in my classes that were 30, 20 something, in some cases, young 40s, right? And if they were from New York, most of the time they were struggling reading, they were struggling comprehending, they were struggling, especially the guys or the younger women. That's always found out, the guys or the younger women. And the older the guys were, the worse it was. The younger the girls were, the worse it was. And I'm talking about they couldn't contrive a whole fucking sentence. They were struggling trying to find the words to articulate how they actually felt. You understand what I'm saying? And it was reluctance of the teachers. It wasn't even their fault. In their areas, especially throughout New York City, if you don't know it, it's broken up by boroughs. And so in a lot of these boroughs, depending on where you're at, some of them are dirt poor. And they have school districts with school budgets that are dearly, you know what I mean? So they don't get that much money. Well, what happens is, as a result of that, when these kids get out of school, they already, most of them joking around and goofying around, whatever, whatever. But you have an ecosphere of teachers that, even if there's some in there that do care, the majority of them are there just to collect the paycheck and leave. You understand what I'm saying? Now, years later, if they graduate, and I give you enough examples of it. They had a program right in New York City where they were paying kids if they got good enough grades. You understand what I'm saying? They were actually giving them they were giving them money. You understand what I'm saying? Which is basically me a cheat sheet. But they were giving kids money for, I think, like 2 years if they got better test results. This was all in the plan, so the schools themselves would get higher budgeting, higher program. I know how that shit work. I did a favor for somebody because they did a favor for me and did a video because of that. Oh, y'all want, that's why I asked. I said, let me see if that motherfucker's gonna be honest. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it to you, and I'll go into another video about that later because I think that's a whole separate thing. But just to get this Dr. Dre thing out of the way, ladies, I don't know how vindictive you're trying to be. I don't know how much you're trying to show your distaste or how much you're trying to piss or take a crap on men of color, black and Latin, especially because I'm hearing this from both ends specifically. And white men seem to be joining in on the round too with their MGTOWs and everything like that too. Don't think I'm missing it. I'm seeing it all. And the only thing I'm saying to you guys is, as you warring right now, please keep in mind 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever, what could possibly happen in this country and who's going to defend you after all the mockery, after all the passive aggressive, microaggressive stances that you've taken on and offline. Who's going to defend you? Now, if you think you're going to run to another Wolves fan in priority over them, I think the sentiment alone is crazy. Like, that's like me going to a white woman and being like, you choose me over your man and defend me. It sounds erotic, right? And maybe that's a way, maybe that's the way it needs to be presented to show the delusion and neurotic sense of everything, because you have to be a neurotic, deranged, psychopathic, sociopathic, neurotic piece of shit to deliver some freaking credence at a funeral of someone's grandmother over them paying your legal bills for a lawyer so you could get divorced. That woman didn't like you. That's what it was. And you didn't like that woman. And if I really had to make a contention of it, because it's the same thing with Kobe Bryant and his mother-in-law and Vanessa Bryant, all right? That woman did not like Kobe. You understand what I'm saying? Not Vanessa. Vanessa loved Kobe. I'm talking about that woman that's Vanessa's mom. She was greedy. I think she's from Mexico. And it was just, and that doesn't mean anything. I'm talking about her origin is not American. You understand what I'm saying? Her origin comes from poverty. You understand what I'm saying? So based off her origin coming from poverty, she knows nothing but greed. And that doesn't mean you have to live in Mexico to be in poverty. There's places in Mexico that have fucking mansions everywhere. Go to Guadalajara and many other places. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people in La Campos. Okay? And tú sabes la gente latino, La Campos. Jíbara. Okay. Those types. They're very greedy people because they both never had anything. They grew up in a pueblo that had fucking grass around it. They raised chickens or whatever. This is the big chance, especially the older they are, the more of advantage they're going to try to take in the situation. Nicole Young and other women that are like her, These women weren't rich. Nicole Young had a couple of dollars, but she didn't have Dr. Dre money. And she definitely don't really, I mean, she come from a little change, but not money. You know what I mean? She ain't like Jackson money. You know what I'm saying? She ain't like Puff money. She ain't come from nothing like that. You know what I mean? She came from modesty. Well, just like with Vanessa Bryant's mother, that woman tried to take advantage after the man was dead. You understand what I'm saying? Which is real insult, not only to his remaining kids, but to his wife. This woman is in court right now, Vanessa, because cops litigated by the city, hired by the city of Los Angeles, were out there taking pictures and later distributed those pictures of Kobe Bryant and his dead daughter and the other passengers as well that were on that helicopter when it crashed. There's a war going on right now on social media about who's got the first scoop. And there's nothing wrong with having the first scoop. But what that scoop details and how you use that scoop and navigate around it, well, that's up to you. And when you guys watch my video, which is up above or down below, one of the two, when you see that video that I did about Sydney Starr and Darius McCurry, do you understand that I'm somebody that not only talks it, but I live by example? I could have went a different direction with Darius, but I didn't. And it's up to y'all to watch that video. Y'all find out. Other than that, my name's Davin Lewis. I'll be back here, guys. In the meantime, make sure that you purchase a single. It's up there. I've seen a couple of y'all purchase it. I appreciate that. I need some more people to purchase it. We try to get this moving or whatever. And I'm going to be doing some other stuff. And I've been editing a lot. So there's going to be about 5 more videos to come up. But in the meantime, make sure y'all go and purchase that. Just click any of those links where you see the trailer. Go right there in the description box and as well in the pinned comment. You can just click that. Go purchase a single right there. I'm doing it all by myself. We always talk about this independent stuff, and everybody knows I've worked for record companies throughout, but three different distributors for 17 years. So I figured this time we'll do it on my own, make all the money. So I didn't use a vehicle like a title or nothing like that. I set it up so I see everything. Except for that little bit that these motherfuckers are doing to do. You know how that shit go. You got to pay somebody. But I ain't getting attached to them. Because a lot of things that I think a lot of these companies, streaming companies, going to start doing is they're going to start writing you in contractually when you upload music. Meaning that since there's so much money going away from the business, what they're going to try to do is to cash in on everywhere they can. So as you upload your music to their site, they're going to be like, okay, we want a partial point, just like a record company would do. Because in basis, they feel like they are the record company now. That's what a lot of streaming services won't front work say to you, but really that's how they feel. They feel like they the record companies now. You know what I'm saying? And the company that you sign with is basically just your representative. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense to y'all. But it used to be the total opposite. Now it's that way. Before it was the record companies, you deal directly with the distributors or you deal directly with the record stores, Tower Records, Virgin Records, whatever. Virgin Mega Store, excuse me. Now it's different. So I decided to make all the money myself. So guys, make sure you do that. Go check that out. I'll also leave the link in the description box so y'all can lead y'all to that. Also, make sure you donate Cash App $STRINGERBELL 80. That's Stringer Bell 80. You'll find that link in the description box. Got a lot of shit to do, trying to do it in a short amount of time. Holidays coming up, so we try to get right. All right, other than that, guys, I will be back with more videos. I will be back live with y'all. Motherfuck Nicole Young, you are piece of POS for showing up at my grandma's funeral. And if you're just now tuning in, rewind this to the back. It's a lot of information in here you might like, might not like, may care for. Hit those like buttons, like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in a minute. Make sure you go check out that video about Darius and Sydney Starr. I got the scoop in there that ain't nobody else got. Ain't nobody really showing around. Y'all go check it out later.